Hey class, welcome back. So today we're going to be, I'm going to walk y'all through a Pro Tools session, all the way from downloading the files that I just emailed y'all, all the way down to bouncing it to where you can play it in your iTunes or email it to your buddies or put it in your portfolio. So let's walk that through. So I already downloaded the file. It came in as a zipped file. I went ahead and unzipped it. So right here is our unzipped file. It's got our audio files. It's got our session. It might have some backup files. Our bounce files right now are empty. There's nothing in there yet because we haven't created a bounce file yet, but we'll create one. And so what we want to do is we want to move this to somewhere that's safe. We don't want it to stay in our downloads folder because whenever we start saving, it's going to save there, and you're going to fill up your downloads folder, and you don't want to do that. So we want to create a nice special space for it. So I've got an external hard drive here that I've gone ahead and created a folder for us. It's our Audio 1 Spring 2020. And I'm going to go ahead and just drag the whole folder. So we got to make sure we take everything. Take just a little while to transfer that over. While it does that, effectively, what we can do is we can look in there at that folder, and it's going to include our audio files. I guess we can take a look at them before they move over. Those audio files, these are each of those clips. Every time we record anything, they're recorded onto a clip. And so these are the clips that we're going to be accessing. These are the non-destructive files. These are the files that are always going to be there, no matter how we edit the clip up. If we take the end off, the beginning, they're always going to be non-destructively just chilling right here. So I believe that transferred over. Nope, almost there. But ultimately, we're going to be opening up our Pro Tools, but we'll be able to open that just by clicking on that session folder. I just want to make sure it's completed. As soon as that completes, we'll be good to go. Cool. Sweet. So now we're just going to be messing with it within the folder that we've created. So now it's no longer in our download files. It's ready to go. So within that, where you've got our session, let's go ahead and open up that session. So that's going to open up Pro Tools. Cool. There we go. So here's our Pro Tools. We've got our edit window, and then we remember Command equals will allow us to get over to our mix window. So first thing we want to do is make sure that we've got our inputs set up properly because we want to make sure that we can monitor it. So right now I am monitoring outputs 3 and 4. So let's go ahead and set that up. So we'll output all of these out 3 and 4. At home, most likely y'all are going to all be outputting out 1 and 2. Remember, right now 1 and 2 is being used for me to stream to y'all. So I'm going to be using 3 and 4. But at home, y'all most likely will just output 1 and 2 because that's going to be either to your headphones, or if you have an interface, the outputs to your speakers are usually outputs 1 and 2. So I'm going to go ahead and pick outputs 3 and 4 for myself. If we hold Option and click in here, we can change our outputs all at the same time. You notice all the outputs we're able to change there. Output 3 and 4. Again, y'all are going to use output 1 and 2. So whenever we do that, we've got our master file down here. We want to make sure that he's corresponding to our output because this is going to be our master fader. This is going to be what our overall of all of the combined signals output to this master fader. So we'll be able to see our output level there. So y'all will want to make sure this is again on 1 and 2. I've got 3 and 4 because I'm outputting everything out 3 and 4. So from there, we've got our inserts. That's where we can insert our series effects. Those are the effects that we're just, like a compressor or something that we want to allow the signal to be processed, and we just want to have the new process signal on the output. We don't want to be able to combine the original uncompressed with the compressed. If we just want to compress it, that's what we would use a series effect. So let's go over that real quick. In case you're not seeing your inserts here, you can always control what you're viewing by coming up here to View, If we click in their view, you can see here what we're seeing in our edit window. So right now we're seeing inserts A through E, sends A through E, and our ins and outs. So again, if your IO wasn't present here, you can find that here. We can also, within our edit window, the same thing goes. Our mix window. So we can go to view, mix window. Let's see, I don't need all those sends, so I can get rid of those, kind of free up some space. So let's just make sure we're able to hear it. So whether it be in your headphones or out of your speakers. So let's go ahead. We'll play a little bit. So we'll just use our selector tool to select a piece of the track. Press spacebar to play. We want to make sure that we're not clipping our output here. So we'll make sure we're watching for any clips and overs here. We want this mix to be somewhere between this -20 and -6. That's our sweet spot. If it goes a little over every now and again, that's all right, but we certainly don't want it getting anywhere into that red there. Cool. So we are, I am getting output, so hopefully y'all are getting output as well. If not, please shoot me over an email with any troubles y'all are having, because I'm happy to help walk you through this. So we want to make sure we've got proper output, so that's what we're going to be listening to. So then, of course, we can insert our effects if we wanted to. If we wanted a compressor on the kick drum, or maybe look at something a little more dynamic like the vocals, we might want to insert a compressor on there. We can always do that here by coming into our dynamics, inserting a compressor. I believe y'all are going to have access to this Dyne 3 compressor limiter. I do think it's a really good one. And also, let's not forget about our EQ. You might even want to go ahead and insert EQ on all of the channels. So what I do for that is, if you hold Option again, just like for the outputs, if you hold Option, it'll do to all the channels. So if we hold Option, for those of you on PC, it's your Alt key. So we do the hold Option, then make a selection, EQ, 7-band EQ here. And you see it now added an EQ to each of our channels. So with that, we can add a filter if we needed to, like here on the vocals, we know we don't need anything below 100 Hertz, so we can create a high Q. Filter out here, it shows what frequencies we're filtering out. We can filter out everything below 100 Hertz. If we were to listen to it a little bit, we could actually hear that in action. So find some vocal here.
Can't spare a dime for charity, because perfect change is what matters to me.
See how it's changing the audio?
Penny and stroll to the bank. Beg for a loan on my humble estate. Teddy.
You notice down here it wasn't making any changes because my filter point was below his fundamental. So we just want to make sure that filter stays below the fundamental if we are adding that, unless you're wanting to completely alter the sound. And of course, I do recommend a filter on each channel, even the kick drum. It may not seem like we need it, because it's going to be our low frequency stuff, but let's listen to it. Obviously, this would be too much. Even if it's a low one. That's just to prevent unwanted low frequency buildups that can sometimes become present if we don't use filters in the proper places. So that's just get a filter in on each one. Obviously, then we can, as you're listening to the song, take note. Remember we talked about when mixing, we want to analyze first. So we want to evaluate. How does it sound? What kind of changes do we want to make? And then make the changes, evaluate how those changes, did it make it sound better or worse? And then, of course, repeat. Of course, first couple times you want to listen to it, see what kind of changes might need to be made. Add EQing to change tones, compression to alter the dynamics. If you've got things where the voice you keep pushing it up and it's not enough, but he keeps clipping you out every now and again. Maybe a lower dynamic would allow it to where the softer parts can be a little louder, the higher transient parts can be a little softer. And then we also we talked about last week parallel effects. So remember, those are via our aux inputs. So we can come up here to track, new, just like creating a new track. Creates our dialog box here. A lot of times I like to choose stereo for my aux tracks. Our aux inputs is what they call them here. So aux input, so our stereo aux input, we can create. Let's go ahead and label this one reverb, because I want to add some reverb over here. So I'm going to label that reverb. So if we double click there, pops up the dialog box. We'll label that reverb. And then I like to go ahead and make sure it's above the master fader. Just have the master fader at the bottom. We want to select its input. So let's go ahead and remember, whenever we want to do internal routing with Pro Tools, we do that with our buses. So we're going to pick a bus for its input. So let's pick a stereo bus 1 and 2. And let's go ahead and rename that. We'll go ahead and rename that reverb, just the same. Cool. And again, we've got to make sure it's outputting out the same output that we're monitoring. So if we're monitoring 3 and 4, make sure it's 3 and 4 for y'all at home. Keep it to 1 and 2. So we've got our reverb here. Effectively, anything that we now output out to the reverb bus should come to this channel. So let's just say we want to send our vocal over to the reverb bus. We do that via our sends, because we want to keep the clean signal outputting out 3 and 4. So via this guy's fader for the vocals, this is going to be our clean signal. However, we want to split the clean signal off before he makes it to this fader. So we'll do a send, or at least while he's still clean, out the bus, out of our reverb bus, the one that we labeled reverb. Now we have our reverb bus. We can select whether we want that reverb or that channel to output to the our aux input. Do we want to be pre or post this fader? So if it's a reverb, we usually want to be post the fader, so that way if I lower the volume of the vocal, it's going to lower the volume of the vocal to the reverb as well. So that comes standard. I would have to click pre if I wanted it to be pre. Also have the ability for the panner right here can be independent, or you can have it actually follow the main panner. That's what this FMP, follow main panner. It also, if you see here, if you hover above, link panner to main. So if we click on that, we'll notice that if I was to pan this vocal, all the way to one side, it's going to go to that side. If I panned it to the other, it's going to follow. So if I hold Option, it's going to go to my default setting, straight up and down. Mono. Cool. So then I also want to give signal. So I could set this independently, or because I'm post fader anyway, I've already got a fader that's controlling the amount of output. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Option again, or Alt for the PC users. Click. It's going to go to our Unity setting. So now whatever output, whatever kind of clean output I've got going to my main is also going to be that same clean output that I've got going to my, right now, my aux input. So if I do that, right now I don't have an effect on this channel. So let's go ahead and insert one on there. We'd insert it up here at the top, just like we would any other series channel. So let's just pick a reverb. I believe for y'all's choices, y'all are going to have the air and the deverb. I really like the deverb, so let's click in on him. A lot of fun here. We've got a lot of presets we can use. We can select what type, hall, church, plate. I'm going to stick to a hall, maybe a small hall. Adjust my decay time to something that can maintain that intelligibility. Maybe give a pre-delay to, make it like we aren't singing directly into the wall. I'll listen to it for the high cut filter, but I know I at least like it around that 10 or so for realism. And then of course we're gonna have the amount of wet now on this fader. So let's see if that if everything's getting where it's supposed to. Let's follow that. Oh yeah, cool. We were there.
It's fair time for charity. All's perfect changes what matters to me. Pinch every penny and stroke to the pen. Beg for.
Cool. So I'm seeing our clean signal here. I'm seeing that clean signal outputting out of our bus output. I'm seeing it show up here in our reverb channel where we've got our reverb added here. And then of course we have the ability to lower the reverb or increase the reverb, which is cool. Let's just kind of listen to a little bit and kind of set those levels.
It's fair time for charity. All's perfect changes what matters to me. Pinch every penny and stroke to the pen. Beg for a loan on my humble estate. Teddy, Georgie,
Cool. So we got the reverb in there now. What's cool about a parallel processor like that is that I can actually add anyone I want to into that reverb channel. So let's say I wanted Zane to go get a little bit of that reverb action. I could do that as well. I would just send Zane his output out the bus, the reverb bus. Again, I want to make sure he's following the main panner in case I do any panning on his voice. And then I want to make sure that the fader is at unity so that it's reflective of our mix. And then let's see, he should be coming over here.
it's fair time for charity. All's perfect changes what matters to me. Pinch every penny and stroke to the pen. Beg for a loan on my humble estate.
Cool, we're getting him in. Cool. So that's going to be we've got series processors and we've got parallel processors. So I want y'all to play around with those. Be as creative as you want to be, because you've got to have the technical down. But now that you know how to insert a series effect, you know how to create a parallel effect. We just need to get all of these out to that master output. So this master output is actually what we're going to wind up what we call bouncing. So what we're going to do is we're going to bounce this master output to a format that can be either streamed or put onto some sort of digital format, whether it be a CD. We can even create an MP3 version of it, put it on an MP3 player, or maybe even a super audio version of it if we really wanted to. If we had a player for that sort of thing. So it's cool. So let's get into how to bounce. So bouncing is effectively we're going to pick an output. So usually we can pick a stereo output. I like to choose whichever output. I've been outputting everything to my master. So for y'all at home, y'all might be using output 1 and 2. For me here, I'm using output 3 and 4. So what we now know that we've picked our output, we now need to select our timeline. So what point do we want to bounce from the beginning, what end to what beginning? So of course, by this point, I want y'all to each have created a proper fade out. So before any bounce, you want to make sure that your ends sound good and that that you've cleaned up anything at the beginning. Like I know for this particular track, both vocalists are talking over the beginning. So we want to make sure that we cut that out. Remember, we do that with our trim tool. If we're in if we have our multi-tool selected, we can go to the corners, trim things out as necessary. We can also do the same to the end, but we can also go to the corners and create fades. So once we've done that, once we've created good fades, make sure it sounds good on the output, and that it sounds good on the input, we select a timeline. So if I had created a bunch of outputs, in fact, let's go ahead and do that real quickly before we get to the bounce. Let's create some quick fades. So let's hear the end, and let's hear how we want it to fade out. Cool. Luckily, it actually has a nice natural fade to it. So we can go ahead and take out the things that we know aren't really fading out, like the kick drum isn't really still fading out. Um, Definitely still hear a little bit of guitar, but I start to hear a little bit of his action in there. Guitar, I think, is still doing a fade out, but we'll create a fade here. Fade on the other one. Let's go ahead and create some just slight fades. Make sure these get all the way to that 0 point so that we aren't, creating any weird clips at the very end. Let's make sure that the vocals sound good. We just capture what we need to of the vocals.
Can't afford to fall in.
See, we don't want that cough in there. Yep. See, we don't need any of that in there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna trim that out. We'll do the same for Zane. And then we'll do a fade. And then let's see, some more acoustic guitar. Trim him up just a little bit. Do a fade again because we want this to get to the 0 point. And the vibes, let's let those fade out. Let's listen to that now. Cool, so by there, I want everything to be done by that point. So I'm gonna trim this up just a little more. Yeah, by that point, everything needs to be done. Cool. So we know this is our ending. So we can just kind of grab the one from the very end, the last one pretty much, and we'll go all the way to the beginning. Oh yeah, don't forget, we got to trim up the beginning. So let's see here. Let's trim up the suitcase. Wait till the first hit. Let's play a little bit. Cool. So we know this is the very beginning. That means we know we can get rid of everything before that. Again, we want to do some fade ins. Make sure that we aren't coming from that, from a non-zero point to start. The guitar didn't come in for a little while, so maybe we don't need him to come in for a little bit. We don't need that noise floor just yet. Maybe even if there is a noise floor, we might want to extend it, the fade in. And the vocals, we can trim up to the beginning of the vocals. We don't want any coughs or talking. Trimming. Guitar didn't come in for a little bit, so we can trim that up. And let's give a slow fade in for that vibe. And let's hear how that sounds in the beginning. Let's see if we can maybe give a little. So it'd be a little long. Cool. We want, as soon as that space bar starts, that's where it's going to go. So now what we can do is, so whenever we bounce, so remember again for bouncing, we're going to pick an output and then we're going to pick a timeline. So if we fade it in, we know that we don't need anything before that. We know that's when I press space bar, that's when it's going to start. is awesome. But the ending, I want to make sure that I at least get enough. The mastering engineer can always shave off a little bit of that if he needs to. Make sure we've got everything. So everything between these two lines, or these two arrows here, is going to be what we're going to bounce. So all right, now I've selected my timeline, and we selected our output. So we're going to come up here to File, Bounce to Disk. So File, Bounce to Disk. Whenever we do that, it's going to pop up this dialog box here, and we're going to, again, we've got to select our source. For y'all, it might be output 1 and 2, if that's what you're using. Right now, I am using output 3 and 4. And then we've got file types. We can do either a WAV or an AIFF. WAV is kind of more of a PC, AFF is more of a Mac, but they're both pretty universal at this point. I like to just stick to the WAV because he was the first to be universal. If you wanted to create an MP3 as well, you can add an MP3, and so it's going to bounce both a WAV and an MP3 for us. There's file format. We've got the option of mono summed, so it's going to take our left-right and it's going to sum it to mono. Or we've got multiple mono, which is it's actually going to create two files, one for the left track, one for the right track. And then we've got interleave. Interleave is the one I'm going to recommend. That's the one that's going to output both left and right into one WAV file, so that whenever you play that WAV file, your output 1 is going to come out the left side, output 2 is going to come out the right side. For me, output 3 would come out the left side, output 4 would come out the right side. So let's select interleave. Then we're going to select our bit depth and sample rate. Let's say we want to do this to CD quality. CD quality, again, 16-bit, 44.1. So if I select 16-bit, 44.1, and I drag that over to iTunes, and I burn a WAV CD with my WAVs audio file at 16-bit, 44.1, it is going to be able to actually just play right in your car, which is cool. So if you are going to be like wanting to take this out, play it in multiple CDs, or burn it to a CD, I'm going to recommend 16, 44.1. Super audio CD, that would be 24-bit, 48K, and then if you want to do the MP3, of course, it's going to create an MP3 for you as well. So again, 16-bit, 44.1. And then we want to name it. For y'all, you can name it, the title and the track. I like to indicate though which mix we're on. So I like to just label it mix 1. So that way if I do create another mix, I've got a way to reference it, because you can always rename your file once you've decided on which one's the correct one. We just want to make sure that as we go look for it, we know what to look for. Mix 1. The next thing we want to do is we want to pick where to actually save it to. It's actually going to save within your bounce files folder that's created whenever you open your session. So depending on where you saved it, make sure it's following back to the location that you saved it at when we first started, and then it's saving it into your bounced files. If you need to, you can go choose and dig around till you get to your bounce files. However, mine's already selected, and it most likely will be for you, but you want to verify it. Then we want to bounce. We can either bounce offline or online. If you want to give one last listen, I recommend doing it online, where you just deselect this. However, if you don't want to give it that one last listen, and you kind of want to quickly get it bounced, you can bounce it offline, and that way it doesn't take as much time to do, but you don't get to monitor that last bounce. So make sure you really like it if you're going to do it offline. And then we're going to create a bounce. Oh, and of course, because of the interface that I'm using, I'm guessing it's only going to allow me to create a super audio CD, which is fine. But I could always use my iTunes to convert this over again, or if I was to use my Pro Tools aggregate, which is what most likely, if y'all using your headphones, what y'all are using. It's just right now, because I'm using an interface to be able to communicate with you, I have to do mine in super audio. So I'll go and bounce. Interesting. So I guess actually it's because I'm trying to save to my hard drive. So you gotta figure out one thing at a time. So if it's not going to allow you to save it to your hard drive, save it to your desktop somewhere that you can find it, and then of course I can drag it over to my desktop. So I'm going to create it within my sessions. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I create a new folder. Oh, sessions, new folder. Make sure I label it properly. Use that current folder and bounce. Cool. So whenever it does that, it's going to also pop this guy up if you did click this add MP3. This is going to allow you to pick, do you want highest quality, fastest quality? So maybe we'll pick highest quality. You can select exactly what kind of format you want it to be in. You can rename it. We could label it excuses, make the artist Insane, album if we wanted to, genre if we wanted to, and we'll click OK. And again, now it's doing it offline. So it, back in the day, it would literally take 5 minutes and 2 seconds to create that. However, right now, obviously can, offline, it's going to happen much quicker. Still takes a process, but it is a 5-minute song. We're creating a lot of zeros and ones to get that 16-bit 44.1. Once that creates, it should be creating that into our audio files folder. So let me go to where I saved that on my desktop. And then here it is. Let's see. So here we've got, it should tell us which format we're in. So this one would be our MP3. Oh, if we hover over, that's our MP3. And then here we've got our WAV file. So if we click on either one of those, it should play within your media player. Let's go ahead and just pick iTunes here. Cool. And now we're playing our song out of our iTunes. So that's something that we could in this format. We could email to friends and family. We could upload to YouTube. All sorts of fun stuff. So cool. Well, hopefully that helps y'all out to get your stuff from. Hopefully that helps y'all out getting your stuff from from that just that folder that I'm emailing you all the way to a song that you can send to your friends and family. Cool. Well, I do hope y'all enjoy, and of course, if y'all get any mixes, please send them my way. I want to hear them. And in fact, bonus points on your final for anyone who sends over any bounce mixes. Cool. I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.